Hello, this is going to be our recorded video edition, maybe have a slightly different format than the live one, which from the number of views that we saw, a lot of people went through, which is really cool, and we're really grateful for. But we thought we would do similar but slightly different, if it makes that much sense, way of going through some of the live. We make it a bit more quicker and concise, also in line with the questions you had at the time, with some with some pre-thought out answers, as well as the idea to make it a bit more concise. The last one was 2 hours long, so for those not looking to go through the entire video, we thought we'd do it in about half the time, but with some good timestamps as well, because it's a long time to be going through and realizing how to use ZeroCaf. So back to those who didn't know, I'm Luke. I'm the junior cryptographer at the Dusk Network. I'm the co-creator of ZeroCaf, which is an online cryptographic library, alongside Carlos here, and today we'll be taking you through parts of it. So now he'll introduce himself.
So my name is Carlos, I'm 24. I'm a blockchain developer in the Dusk Network, and I'm the other co-creator, let's say, of the ZeroCaf library, working together with Luke. So let us explain a little bit how it works and how we've done it. So Luke is going to start talking about the maths a little bit and the mathematical background, and then I will make some kind of demo of what can you implement over the ZeroCaf library and why is it useful. So whatever you want, Luke.
Yeah. So the method of doing this in the video is it's good for the hopefully now you can all see my...
Yeah, it's perfect.
Which is good. Perfect, okay. Let's try not to do it straight away here. Godly. Okay, so I don't know why I just have to okay, so this is the people who knew. I'll give you some of the mathematical explanation and architecture explanation, but also reasoning to why things are where they are, and we'll just start off here. So we're doing this. So I'll show you where you guys to find it. You go into your GitHub, you just go straight to the Dusk Network. We've got all of our things, all of our cryptography, all of our open source things here, and this is where you'll find the ZeroCaf library built right here. So first thing we're going to go to give an overview is going to be to click on environment, go to view deployment here. Okay, so what is ZeroCaf? It's a pure cryptographic library constructed to define the operations for an elliptic curve embedded into the Ristretto scalar field, which allows the construction of prime order groups, otherwise non-prime order curves, with the ultimate purpose of defining operations for set inclusion proofs inside zero knowledge of private keys members of the system and any public keys. And then you go on to talk about bullet proofs, arithmetic circuits, and arbitrary constraint systems. And the reason I ran through that and went through it all really quickly, it's important to understand that when ZeroCaf was defined and is created, the primary step, that initial step, is to build a cryptographic skeleton or a framework to design the whole protocol. Because when you have things in here like using elliptic curves as the primitive, using Ristretto scalar field for its specific advantages, or using prime order groups, which in this case is a specific type of curve, to create the speeds of non-prime order curve. There are lots and lots of factors, and within each level of this factor, these layers that compromise, or these bones or supports that make up this cryptographic structure. There's lots of variations. So if you go in headstrong and forwards, you never really go to a specific goal, and you end up all over the place. So with this, what is ZeroCaf? Even some of the things towards the end, the bulletproofs as arguments and arithmetic circuits are beyond work we've already finished. You can see that through the roadmap and such. But it's better to plan and fulfill a plan. There are always variations from left and right and bits along the road. However, making that plan is a first to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it for. And also allows you to know whether you can use existing libraries. So here, what this library can be used for these set inclusion proofs and zero knowledge, uses these contemporary techniques, and these real are like, I'm talking like 2017 onwards. Some of the papers changing each day in 2019, 2018, you know, getting released at things like Crypto this summer. And with it being so contemporary, it's hard to find already existing libraries which has the framework and the crates that you can import to put them over for the protocols that you want to do to have those preset functions, which is why, you know, the ergonomics, credentials, range proof, key group signatures, and all these tailored to the Dusk Network protocol is a real fine-tuning yourself. And another positively frustrating thing is the Dusk Network is so it's so innovative. It's the first of its kind in so many ways. You have to build from the ground up. If the product doesn't exist, then the tools certainly don't exist. So we have to do everything ourselves, which makes it fun. And it's good to pave your own way forwards, but also you have to pave your own way forwards and sort of go from scratch. Okay, so what I'm going to say is this library, so it's just these preset functions and lots of different cryptographic terms to make up these ultimate goals, where we arguably even defined it backwards, seeing what we wanted and how you get there, and then tips and cryptographic tricks along the way, and abstraction layers and things that you can implement to improve that ultimate goal at the end. So the main goal of the library is to define these base set iterations. You know, you want it in zero knowledge, you want it for this, that's the new thing. So we select our curve first, the Doppio curve. It's a twisted Edwards curve. So we said the reason we want twisted Edwards for its speed, the computational errors, and we'll show you later some quick computational principles and how they work inside the library, but in a more demonstrative way, showing you the numbers. We want the speed of how they work, but one of the drawbacks of twisted Edwards is it brings this thing called a cofactor. That's the second that we want to get rid of that. Get taking care of the cofactor of the curve, use the Ristretto, and then that allows us to have operations for this set of inclusion proofs for the key generation as one keys and sets of many keys, and things like that. So yeah, that's the reason it's used for. Usage. This is for you to use, but for those watching, for those viewers, people who've invested a lot of time, energy, and effort into and money into the Dusk Network as part of the protocol as a whole, an example of what it can be used for, as we're altering the securitization process through tokens. Companies who wish to set certain white paper inclusions need to have these proofs of people's. It says private key, but just people's individuality and certain as personal to them, so they can verify who they are inside a set of many public keys, which is to show that corresponds to something else. Incomplete zero knowledge, constantly the additive idea of these new techniques working towards a greater cryptographic skeleton for a greater purpose. Okay. So for some of this use, we use grouping numbers like this, which is just this is the prime number. So there's a certain properties, the prime fields, and then we just embed our curve, or we define it over this Ristretto scalar field. We should define it over this prime field to take on the advantages of some of this stuff. Okay, so this is where you'll find just some of the framework and what it is. It's also linked to, for those who watched the last video, the article I released on ZeroCaf and how it works and why it works. This is a short overview. So back to the original docs. You can also take this, just say for those on the README page, which is just down here. Let's move the cards out of the way. So just for those who want to go through, so this is explaining a bit more detail some of these things. I only went through them because I went through them in the last video, but you're welcome to probably go through. And if you do, as I said last time, have any questions inside the paper that's associated with this, and some of the docs, and here's my email. more than welcome to email me, more than welcome to send me a Telegram and I'll ask questions in the group. I'll try and get to them all. Yeah, here's some of the things that we use as examples, and more importantly, our roadmap. Our roadmap, which we consistently define 10 steps ahead or so, is important to know what you're doing now and how it is going to link. It's all how it's going to link in the future. It's all good doing things for a purpose and creating coordinates and when things have their own properties and their own advantages, you want to know why this is helpful to your ultimate goals. It's all about getting to that goal. What does this bring you in the end? We don't want to do those sort of things. One of the other reasons why we used our own library is because we found a lot of the others, had we refactored them, for example, one library we found online, it did a certain term about it needed binary decomposition of points. We also put the operations into the circle and feels it wasn't suitable. Also, when refactoring the whole thing, you're refactoring things you don't need, but you think you need at the time, because it's hard to shape something that someone's already made towards your own goal. So we'll go through. We'll have a look at it here. So this is the curve that we use, and I'll tell you a little bit about this. This is a certain type of elliptic curve. So people think of it as, when they say curve, think of the shape, and it does help to see the shape. But some people like to think of an abstract way. It's just a function. You can rearrange this in a bit, and inputs, and it gives you inputs and outputs. Just sort of what it is, and then of course have properties and the gap and now the abstract distance between two points gives you more properties. So certain x values come with, as is a y squared here, so come with two y values, and you see if the y's fit, and that's what we'll do with most of the y's. So today I'll show you, just like last time, but a quicker Twisted Edwards point addition. So if you go to ZeroCaf, and we go to our RSRC, go to some of our Edwards, you'll find here this edition here, the paper that we're looking for, and those looking to use this and those looking to import the crates, etc. One of the things that we hope is good enough, because it really frustrates me when going through other libraries and reading other code, is that it's well documented. There's a lot of this library written in quite confusing languages, and it can make it awfully difficult to understand why they would have done what they've done. It could work, but the justification is important, because they may have had the right path that you were looking for, but forked off somewhere towards the end, and you yourself may want to go and do, I don't know, you want to do something slightly different towards the end with a different prime number. So when you don't understand quite where they've gone, you just know their answer, and input doesn't really help. So on each aspect, we have these tags, these links to websites, and some written justifications and comments on why we've done a lot of things. Okay, so what we're using now is this for high-speed code. Let's pick a paper produced in Asia Crypt in 2008. So as I said, these inputs and outputs you get from the curve. You input, you get a sign output, and it's a point. You do it again, it's a different point. And one of the good things is you can move between points. You can map what they call it P as a point, with 1P, and then get into 2P. So it depends how you do that. And then what happens when you add P and 2P together in the two different points, or we call in this case, let's say Q. So you have the first point, call it P, and different point, call it Q. What happens when you add them together and you move, and when you do add and you change, how does that function work, and what use does it have? And so if we take, we're going to be using a lot from this paper. This is for the coordinate point I'm showing you today. As it says here, our curve is written in this form. This is for Edwards curves, where RA equals -1. which makes it twisted outwards. So I'll show you from our equation just how some of that works. We'll move this one over. Okay. So I'll show you some inputs and some outputs and explain what use they are to some people. Just to make it a bit faster than last time. Not sure what this in my notes. Yeah. So if we take the sage here, and we take our equation that we said last time, we have, if we're using this equation here, and we're going to be rearranging it to be able to get values out we know in advance it's going to end up looking like this. This is what we'll be getting but for the y. So you need to predefine these constants, the d, the x's, and the l's. Otherwise, you get an error. You're looking for something. So we'll start with the L. So L is just that big number I showed you, the 2 to the 252 plus 277. So the Ristretto field, the large prime number, and that's the field we're defining a lot of our operations across. Our D, the D is that this coordinate, this constant here. So in our case, if you go back, you see that our D, this is minus 86649,86650. We'll call that unfortunately in stage you can't unfortunately in stage you can't do certain types of divisions when everything is set to this field, because when you set things to this field, all your operations need to be modular. And the reason they're modular is for the principle of security. So it's discrete in mathematics. So the moving from point to point isn't patternized, and it's as random. So your ability to track is far more difficult. And when you take an equation like this, you have to do the top half and then times the inverse modular of this half, but I'll show you that right now.
You could also do modulo L and that's it, right? Sage behind computes the modular inverse.
Yeah, I want to do the long way. So
Okay.
Why it's coming the way it is.
No, look. You have to do the inverse mod of the 86650. Yeah, like this. Perfect.
Perfect. So then what you take from this,
No.
a certain modular L, you D mod L. This is our number. And so we have all of our constants predefined. We have our, this case, we have our D. I hope this two-page system helps a little bit more. This two-page system, so you can see some of the things we're doing, and I've preset some of the things on the right. They don't matter as much, but I'll explain how they're defined here. But then anyone who does want to see the video, they can pause at any time, have a look. I'm thinking hopefully this sidebar is mostly for me, but I think there's still some good stuff going there. Okay, so when you have this, when you have an x, let's imagine all x's work for here. So imagine when you want to work out y, you make it this equation. You've got your d, you've got your l. We just worked out our d, and we preset our l. You've got equations, and I put an x equals 4. X equals 4 shows me, in this case, one of 2 points. It's a y squared. So actually, let's say x equals 4 gives me 16. So we know y equals both 4 and minus 4. So y squared is 16, root and plus minus is minus 4 and plus 4. 4x equals 4. They're really handy. That works well. If you make another point, you do x equals 73, and you get 289. You know, square root of 289 is 17, and you get y equals negative 16 plus 16. Do another one, you do x equals 635, and you get y squared equals 403,225 plus minus. You know that these are all points. Although it's a little bit different module, but I'll show you that you imagine that these are all points. When you input something, you get to a point. And even when people know the point you times by, that resulting answer you get, people still can't figure out what your input is. So if you have a base point and you call it P, you multiply it by whatever number of points to continually move along and get to a larger number of points. You can give someone the answer, and you can give someone the point input, but not the thing you multiplied it by, and it's still incredibly hard. So yeah, infeasibly computational, or exponentially difficult to go back. And that's where the security side comes into it. Because I think even that aspect, a lot of people don't really get, but that's just because maybe slightly fearful, whereas it's not actually too hard, and it's how it works. I think a lot of people when they look at this stuff, especially this, is daunting. It's Sage logo build I self raise 28042. It's daunting, but if you understand that when you perform things in real life, the equivalent of this key generation and parallel verification is happening all the time. These calculations and security and computer-based security happen all the time. It's not actually that difficult. So you get comfortable with the idea of watching some of these videos, which is why I say, tell me anything you don't get, you don't explain for another one, I will do it. Anything you need to go through in detail. Hopefully this is even a build on some of the questions and things we'll have, whether it be in the group or in the actual chat from last time. It's helping move forwards. You're inputting these values, you're getting an output value, only you know the input. Then you're
this will be like the basic operation for protocols like the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, right?
Yes, for example. So they just do, if it was on a small elliptic curve, going from point to point operation is easy, because I think a lot of the ones from when they were using the DH at the start were using non-extended. So what you do is you get your Y's and you get your X, and then you get your inputs and outputs. To make things faster, this paper that I referred to presents twisted as well. So you've got your X, Y as the normal, and it just moves it X, Y, Z, X, Y, T, and Z. There's a new manner of creating these points and create corresponding equivalent affine points, so affine coordinates here, to the extended affine coordinate, the X, Y, Z, and T. And it even has a cool little method of working out T. And then you can set them into a form of X, Y, T, and Z, get another set of points, then getting your new X, Y, T, and Z, and then moving to a new point, and no one knows where you came from. That's what key pair and public key pair generation is all about, or public private key pair generation is all about. Okay, so we'll do a little bit of it. Hopefully something that's clear. So we have going to use one of the same ones last time. Yeah, X equals 23. And then we use our equation. We won't call it y squared because it will begin to compute the square root, and we don't quite want to do that. We will do another small function to see if our square root is applicable, say inside all the potential quadrats, all the square roots that can happen of the L, so all the square roots inside this. So we'll get an answer. We know this one's going to work because we did it last time, so it helped. So we'll just call it y. So y equals, I'll just take it from here. Okay, so y equals, it's not true. The y equals minus x squared, that's dx squared minus 1. And that is just this equation. Just this equation rewritten. Yeah, it looks a bit nice when it's written in some of the docs, but that's just that's just this equation rewritten to look like equation. So we've got our y points. Okay, so we have a y here, and we want to check if this particular y exists. So bear in mind this is a y squared. It's a y squared, it's not been square root. It exists inside of all of these. If this is a quadratic residue, there's a special type of first type of number that you're looking inside of those inside of this prime field. So for that we use the Legendre symbol, which is just a way of checking if y exists in L. And because it's given a 1 as opposed to a minus 1, we know in fact it does work. As anyway, okay, so we know that this y squared exists inside of this L. We're going to decompose it more. So at the moment we have y squared. We'll just write it here actually. We'll open it. We've got y squared equals. Okay, if you square root this, it won't be working. It won't work because that's not because it's not a square root number. But inside of this, it is a square, so we can figure it out. So for this, we're going to be using the Tonelli algorithm, and as I can show you here, all of the things that we do in here as we go along, some of the justification links to tools, so tools for working this out, and this Tonelli algorithm is here. Beyond that, we have one that I'm quite proud of, the Klinsky inversion modular algorithm. I think is the first working implementation of this algorithm, made by, well, Klinsky was a mathematician who did it in the 80s or the 90s, but then this is a refactoring by Salas and Koch, who are two mathematicians, one of UCLA and one of a university in Istanbul, I'm not too sure. But I believe that was the first working algorithm, so very happy with that. So you can take this and put it into your Sage, work out these modular square prime roots. Do this. So we do O equals prime underscore, and then it's mod underscore square root, and we take our y, we'll check that is defined, y is defined as this here, and then we'll take our L, we get two answers, two answers here work well, are the two, as you know, the square root, the two values that exist. So we were lucky before, well, lucky in my examples, you have 289, or the big one, the 403,000, or 16, they will have plus minus 4, plus minus 4. But these aren't just the negatives of one another. They aren't, one isn't the other times by -1, they're different numbers, but inside this field, as you can tell, we are able to still work out these two coordinates inside of here. So it's quite lucky. So we'll take the second coordinates. We'll take the second coordinate for the y, and we'll just take it as big y equals 5 on 1, x equals
23, right? Yeah.
Oh, sorry?
23, I was saying, yeah.
T equals, it's from this paper.
Z is 1, as always.
Z is 1, oh, so that x times y over z. So we'll go to Divided by 1, so it doesn't matter. Mod L.
Perfect.
We get our T as 1905. You can use this value, you can use the, so we have our X, Y, our T, and Z equals 1. So from this paper here, we have an X1, a Y1, a T1, and a Z1. And then as time I will go away and I'll compute some more X, Y, T's, and Z's. Anyone can do this, you don't even have to check. You don't have to use the ones they're using. Different X values, some will give you a fail. So I'll show you an example of a failure actually. I didn't show that last time. You work out these, and then you can just predefine these inside of Sage. Predefine these operations, and then compute the working ones, and then Carlos can do a testing of such. And yeah, we will. You can see if they work for yourself, and that way you can understand on a small level, on an individual level, rather than millions of calculations per second, what each calculation is doing in an example like an extended twisted edwards. And then we also have the library, those of you who do enjoy cryptographic operations, projective coordinates that just come in. You can have these and things like Montgomery ladders. There are all kinds of additive and multiple methods. There's also subtraction, but these are just showing you how we go from points to points and what those points are for a user, and how those points are more tangible to a lot of people in the real world. So before I go, I'll show you an example of a failing coordinate. So we'll actually goes, well, I hope it fails. 51. Y, this is yet another value do. The genre of our Y field. Correct. Another working one. Okay. Yeah, well, I actually just picked it that way. So, for example, 345 does not fit as a quadrilateral inside this, and you get a -1. So that's it. If you want to play around with this, you can preset the functions, and you can download this application, Sage. And for those who maybe aren't a fan of all the graphs, and those who aren't a fan of some of the code, you can use this in a plain sheet way. It's just like reading a book or doing calculations on a piece of paper. I must have some here. It's like doing those. Sometimes I use paper, I use this, and then I have some code. But so some people enjoy this. But yeah, you can play around with quite interesting functions, and then you map them out by hand and see why they're not in the quadrilateral edges. Because there are so many existing inside. Yeah, if it didn't work, if 345 did work, you can just add one again, add one, and you will find a failing, should we say, well, a result that I give -1. Okay, so I will show you something I didn't show last time, and that is this application Sage. So you can get it down. Sage map. Here, this symbol, and yeah, download that. For me, it's on Mac, but they have different operating systems. It's incredibly helpful. It's quite expensive, the laptop, in computational power. Not in it, it's free. It's costless, but it's in computational power. So they use it. I will, because I feel bad because I've been flicking left and right. I will let you people into it a little bit. I won't click on this doc or open some of the things I've done. But in here, it's part of some of the Sage stuff that I won't scroll. So the curve we're using, the Doppio curve, original pro in Manchester, if you really did comb through the release of ZeroCaf, you realize at the bottom it said Safe Curve Doc. coming soon or pending, along those lines. So say there's going to be an imminent release of some safe curve elliptic cryptography. So with these curves, for lots of different tests, I'm going to run through a couple that we have. So the CM discriminant here, for example, using a trace Venus. This is for those who really are liking the maths. These are lists of, as you can know, some quite famous curves, the 20519, the Dalek guys in the library, based on what Bernstein founded in 2005, and then put into the Dalek library by other people. The alleged backdoor NIST curves as well. The Goldilocks from Mike Hamburg in America, the 448 set, the prime set slightly different. It's in a strange, not a Morsian prime, but strange 2 to the n minus 2 to the n minus 2 to the n minus 1. So for those who are Swimanti, it's taken me a little while because it's I want to document it very well, because as you can see here, there really aren't many curves at all that fit in here. Now it'd be great if we could some solid documentation, get the Doppio onto there with some of the computative values, traces for lots of these tests of birationality and twists and completeness at various points. But that will pend very soon. It's quite a complex document. But yeah, I'll take out a couple of those twisted Edwards extended points, and then I'll compute them together using the formulas. I'll bring the results, and I'll show you the Carlos. I'll show you an example where you would test something like that. Curve goes on inside the library for those who want to test themselves. And yeah, hello Carlos, take them now, and I'll be in the background doing that. Stop sharing, Carlos.
Okay.
And you'll go over and run through some of the code of the library.
Yeah, let's go for it. So I will try to fit our faces here. You also you can leave your webcam if you want, but it's okay. Okay, so first of all, if you want to review any of the information that Luke released now on the video, or you want to try to understand a little bit better all of the maths and everything, we highly recommend you to go through all the documentation that we've made about ZeroCaf, also through the Medium post that was released, I think it was on the 7th of July. And yeah, just take a look to it, because I think it's the best way to kind of understand what's going on.
I think it was the 5th of July.
Tell me?
I think it was the 5th of July, right before the autumn listing.
Okay. Then the 5th, sorry. So now that I mentioned that, let's start with the demo. So in this demo, I wanted to basically try to implement some of the basic operations that we will need to implement for building a Diffie-Hellman key exchange protocol over the ZeroCaf library, so over the Doppio curve, and well, basically start from the scratch, import the library, and work with it. So I wanted to also mention that ZeroCaf is released on the crates.io platform. So for everyone that programs in Rust and wants to try it, run the benchmarks or the tests, or see a little bit more in depth how is it built, you can basically input this on your Cargo TOML files and have it as a dependency on your projects. The same information that you can find here is the same as you can see on the rest of the docs. So let's go for it. Let's open a terminal, and first of all, let's create a binary in Rust. So in order to do that, let's cargo neo bin, and we will call it testing, let's say. Okay, so now, okay, perfect. So the first thing that we are obviously going to make is to import our library ZeroCaf on the dependencies. So I'll go to ZeroCaf, and I think, yeah, that's the last test version. So latest version, so yeah, we have it. So now let's go to the main rs function, and let's say that the purpose
Are you sharing your screen?
your or mine?
Yours.
Yeah. But not with you. You want me to share it with you?
No, it's okay. I just
Okay.
didn't know.
Yeah. One of the most.
Oh, you're not recording through Zoom. Okay.
One of the most commonly used operations over elliptic curves, which is scalar so scalar multiplication is basically let G be a point over the Doppio curve, and K scalar random value over the Doppio subgroup. So what we want to do is basically create a point P which will be equal to G multiplied key times by itself. Okay, so this is the most commonly used operation in cryptography, and also, it's also the basic operation for creating key pairs, because as Luke said, when you multiply x times a base point and you get another point, if I provide you both of the points, you cannot easily guess how many times I multiplied the base point by itself in order to arrive to the second point. So it's hard to get key giving P and G. So let's start with it, and let's import our library. So extern create ZeroCaf, and now well, let's mention it because I think it's important. ZeroCaf provides basically, let's say, 4 main elements in the library, which are field elements, scalars, and point implementations. So in our case, Edward points and Montgomery points, right? So for example, for field elements, which are, let's say, how the coordinates are expressed on, we have that a field element represents an element on the final field, modulo, blah, blah, blah. And we can go and see which functions are implemented or traits are implemented for it. Okay, so we know that we will basically need field elements, since this is how the coordinates of the Edwards points are expressed on. We will need the scalars, since key, as we define it, will be a scalar, and we will also need to get support for our Edwards points, so we will import Edwards point. Okay, so let's import the 3 types or structs. So use from ZeroCaf, from field, I want the field element. I also want from scalar the scalar type, and from Edwards I want an Edwards point. So an Edwards point is basically how we call a point which is implemented over the Doppio curve in extended twisted Edwards coordinates. Okay, so just just to make an idea. And now let's start with function main with no parameters and gives back nothing. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is basically get a point. So let's go defining it. Let G be an Edwards point, which is a point over the twisted its extended coordinates. So let G equals Edwards point. Let's put the type just to provide a better understanding. Even it will infer it, and we will wait until Luke has the coordinates which we need, and he was computing. And on the meantime, what we can do is starting implement a random scalar generation function. Okay, we can do this on, let's say, the Rusty way, which will be well, first of all, we need to search for the RNG crate. So Rust, I think it was. Yeah, let's take a look to the docs. Yeah, perfect. So I think that run was on the 0.7 release, if I'm not wrong. Let's check it. I will also want run on the 0.70. I think it's the last one. Yeah, it is. Perfect. So now let's use it. So extern create run, and let's make usage of I think it was RNG and thread RNG, but let me check just to be sure. RNG, yeah, perfect. So RNG and thread RNG, perfect. So the Rusty way of doing this will be something like implement, we define the lifetime for the parameter RNG for a reference of type A of well, let's not do it with references, because I think it will be more complicated, and that's not the purpose of the video. So let's do it on the easy way. So now here I will define the function RNG and basically implement the RNG trait for scalar. You can do this, but let's do it on a way on which the people that's not familiar with Rust can also understand. So I will make a function, a normal function. Okay, so public function rand scalar generation, let's say, with no parameters, gives back a scalar. And now we need to see how this scalar type is built. So in order to do that, let's go to the docs. How are you going with the point, Luke?
Give me 20 seconds.
Yeah, no worries.
I've bumped out 3 instead, and just checking the last one. I want to make sure it's all
perfect.
I did it for change the value slightly, found some new ones so they can get a live overview of all the stuff that's
okay.
All the potential points you understand going on, and as you do some of the work for them, I can explain a thing or two based on what you've done.
Okay. I will implement the function, and then if you can provide me the points, it will be perfect. So we need to generate random scalars. So let's check how scalar is built. So scalar represents an element of the field generated by the prime of the subgroup, which is this big number. And we want to check which form has a scalar. So we see that the scalar is defined as an array, sorry, of 5 U64 limbs. So this is a technique that is mentioned on the Curve 25519 paper, which states that this is the most optimal way of defining your field elements and your scalars also in your libraries, in your software libraries. So in our case, every limb of the array it's represented on radix 2 to the power of 52. So just to understand it, this will be something like, if I have this number, this will be 0 times 2 to the power of 52 to the power of 0 plus 1 times 2 to the power of 52 to the power of 1, and so on and so on and so on. So this number, this array, basically represents 2 to the power of 52. Okay? It was just to understand. So if we want to generate a random scalar, we need, it's pretty obvious, like we need to generate a random bytes array and then convert it into a scalar, because we see that we have a function which is called from bytes, which unpacks a 32-byte scalar into 5 limbs of 52 bits. Okay, so let's check how can we do that. I think it was try fill. Yeah, so it's implemented for whatever type that implements as byte slice mode. Okay, so perfect, no problems at all. So let me remove things from here. Okay, so gen random 32 byte array, let mutable, because we saw that it was implemented for mutable references. Let's say bytes equals U8 32. Okay, so I need to put the 0, otherwise it will not compile, and we're inferring the type since we put the U8 here. So now it should see that byte is a 30. Yeah, perfect. And now let's turn this bytes array into a random byte array. So in order to do that, we should call threadrng, which has a function fill bytes. I think it was try fill, I think it is. Yeah, perfect. And we will give to the function a reference to our bytes array, but from 0 to the 31st. I don't know how it's set, but until the 31. And I think that this function gives, sorry, this has to be mutable since it's a mutable reference, and I think that this function throws an exception. Yeah, so this gives us a result which can be either what we want, which is nothing, because the value will be changed thanks to the mutable reference, or it can be an error. So in order to unpack this, we will expect on the obtention error getting.
I've finished them all.
You have them?
I finished them all and I've just sent it in the chat. I defined just the new ones that all I did. Well, the X, Y, Z to equal 1, 2, and then I just called the outputs 4.
Okay, perfect.
As a cool fact to people, when you're guessing someone's input, so an X number of an X multiple, sorry, of points to go along. did all of these calculations that were going on, the security of certain 8, 2 to the 256, if you were to break it in half and do 2 to the 128, the 2 to the 128 are the possibilities you had this computer running to work out someone's input. So eventually you cut it in half, because then you can go either way, between 0 and 256. You can go both ways. You had a that could do 1 trillion computations of these additives of a point a second, and you started that computer when the universe began, it would be 107,000th of the way getting the answer, shooting it to the 1 to 8. Between now and back when the universe began, there's times that period of time, I don't know, 8 billion years, so 107,000, so 107,000 times 8 billion. And then you'd know something. It seems pretty worth it to me.
Perfect, I have the values here. Okay, nice. That's nice, look, thanks. Let's continue with it.
Yeah, do you want to show them the background, or do you want me to go through other parts of the library for them?
I'm not showing you on the background since Zoom it's quite weird with this, but however you want.
You want to show them this input together, and then the output, like last time, would you like me to do a different part of the library?
What do you mean?
So, do you want to take those points and...
So do it now, you mean?
Do you want to show them what you do on your screen, or would you like me to show them something else?
No, I prefer to finish and then we can show whatever you need to, if it's okay for you. Okay, so let's go to the ZeroCaf library and let's convert the points that Luke just sent to us. So in order to do that, we have a tool built to do this, which is Edwards point new function. We have implemented Edwards points here also. So this allows us to, well, basically all of the tools allows the developers to work faster and easily with the library, since the format of the things it's not really standard and it's complicated. So it's meant to be something that allows developers to don't lose that much time. So let's get the values. Y1, this is 23 for the X, this is Y1, perfect, and now I need T1 because Z is 1, okay, and now we're gonna also convert the other points. Okay, so this will be a little bit boring maybe, but has to be made. So okay, 68, Y is this, so 68 here, this big number here, and finally T2, which is equal to this big number here. And for the last point we have X4, which is this, we have Y4, which is this, we have Z4, which is this, and we have T4, which is this. Okay, perfect. So now if we run cargo run, oh sorry, I I need to enter to the tools. So tools src cargo run. Perfect. So we have all of the Edwards points, and now let's go define them. So I will copy the first one. And I will go to the Edwards, and let's define it over here. So pub static, let's call it test1, which is an Edwards point, equals, and this. Now let's define test2 value, which will be the second Edwards point. Okay, and the result of them addition, which will be test4, which is an Edwards point, which equals, and this will be this. Perfect, we add it. Oh, okay, done. So now we have the values. Let's make a quick test to see that they work. So in order to do that test, you can see that addition is implemented for Edwards point. So we can basically put the plus sign and then perform the addition. So let's create a variable called result, which equals the addition of test1 and test2. And now I want to assert that result it's equal to test4, which is what we are expecting. So let's run the test and hope that it works. Oh my god, I'm assigning a value, not comparing. It's too late. And that's it, it worked. So we've basically proved that the library performs point addition as we are expecting and as we got in Sage. So that's one of the parts of the demo, which was proving point addition. Now we're gonna get this point, and I will use it as G on my little testing crate or binary. So we have G, and now we have to multiply G by a key, which will be a random scalar, if you remember. So now I'm getting found for type run prelude threader and G in the current scope. So oh, because it's not bytes, it's tri-field. Oh my god. Okay, so sorry about that. So this basically fills the bytes body. Okay, so as you see, this function basically fills the bytes variable with random bytes, and now we need to create a scalar from this. So in order to do that, we will make something like let scalar, or let's return it directly, which is maybe better. So scalar from bytes, and we will pass a reference to our bytes function variable, sorry, and we will return that. Okay, so That's perfect. Maybe some of you might be wondering why I'm not filling the 32 bytes. So this is something that is explained on the docs, but if you take a look to a 32 byte array, it can provide a number which is 2 to the power, as maximum 2 to the power of 256. So this is bigger than the order of the prime of the field. So the problem comes from we cannot hold numbers that are greater than our field. Oh my God, we cannot hold values that are greater than L, so the prime of the field. So in order to avoid that, what we need to do is to don't fill the last byte. So this guarantees us that the number will never be greater than the prime of the field. If you try to do it, it can maybe work, since the last byte can also, since it's in a random, since it's randomly created, it can be low and it can fit on the scalar creation, but it can fail. So let's make it to 31, and now we only need to perform the operation. So perform G times key. So let P equals a reference to G times a reference to, let's call it scalar, and let's call the function here and declare scalar. So let scalar equal to run scalar generation. Okay. And let's print the resulting point, which will be P, and let's also print the random scalar, which will be scalar. So let's run this and we will be done with that part. This was called testing, yeah. So let's download the dependencies and all that stuff. So you see that this is one of the things that I love from this library, and basically libraries like the Curve 25519 of the Dalek guys and things like this, which is we didn't need to take any care about how the operations on the subgroups and on the final fields are performed. So ZeroCaf provides you, let's say, a mid-level API with which you don't need to take any care about the maths that are behind of the Doppio curve. You only need to take care as a developer for the algorithm or protocol that you are implementing. So here, if I am implementing Diffie-Hellman key exchange, I don't need to take care about how the field element operations are supported and how point operations are done. I only need to know what I'm doing. This is obvious because otherwise it can be pretty tough. But you don't, it's kind of a separated thing, so it allows you to have a nice modularity and don't have on the same library the protocol and also the mathematical backend, which is kind of an error of a lot of libraries in cryptography, because once you find vulnerabilities, you will never know if it's on the protocol or if it's on the mathematical backend, and it makes your life so complicated. So with this thing, you see that it's quite easy to implement something for working over the Doppio curve, whatever protocol you want. So Diffie-Hellman key exchange, a digital signature algorithm. So it's not a problem. And yeah, to finalize, you see here that we got a random scalar and a point, which is the result of the computation that we made. So the random scalar times our point that looked found just a few minutes ago. So you see that if we do it again, we get a different point and a different scalar, and again and again and again, and it's always the same. So that's basically it. I mean, it's really comfortable to work with those kind of libraries, such as ZeroCaf or Curve 25519 Dalek, because they provide you all of the mathematical backend in a mid-level API, easy to understand, and you only need to take care about understanding what are you doing and implement your protocols over the curves that you want. So I really encourage you to try it, to make tests with it. If you have any suggestions, ideas, or whatever, just come here to our repository and post an issue with a label that it's saying like, hey, I will want to get this implemented, or this maybe will be a good idea, or I found this error, or whatever it is, and we will try to solve that or help you or whatever we are capable of. So yeah, look, if you wanted to say something else.
Yeah, there is something. Last time, I think I think could have been explained and improved better on the. It's hard to describe. I always recommend those read, but what a cofactor is, or just what even cofactor is possibly referring to. And I did some. I've just done for them some calculations on Sage for showing a cofactor, and I can go through that very quickly, so they have some better idea of the justification of using the Ristretto scalar field and the problems that we would otherwise have encountered with a cofactor and our points. And then we'll do that. I'll do that in 4 or 5 minutes. We'll get it wrapped up. Okay. Did you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so back on parts of this, just all the things I'm going to go to with you guys, try and make it as front page as possible, pun 100% intended. In the README, we'll just go through another thing here. I spoke before about those curves often use two prime numbers, the prime of the field, which in our case is the L, which is this one, the Ristretto, and the prime of the subgroup, so the subgroup of the curve. Remember, it's in curve subgroup, and they avoid this number. So this number is the order of the group of the curve. So it's related to R. This largely is related to R, and a lot of people don't realize that what are these. They think the curves have the group order of a prime and the subgroup. With the twisted edges, you don't, and that's something that can cause issues, implementation problems with having this. So how it works is we'll have a look here on the left. When you create this curve, we have the curve here. It is in equation form in the Montgomery, where the A is 3, 4, 6, 5, 9, 8. All right, you can ignore this. This is just a base point of y, or should actually be what y is. But anyway, the A here is used in this curve, so you can copy this. So you can do the same. First, we set our x to being this, and this is a finite field where we define our elliptic curve over. And then from this, you get points. So points is cardinality. So cardinality just means the size of all of the elements in the set. How many elements in the set? And this is in this elliptic curve group, we have, and actually comes out as it's this one. But to put it into an easier term, we do it in 2 to the n minus the excess between the largest possible 2 to the n. So we have 2 to the 252 here. And this is the number, sorry, that makes it the easiest to be using. 2 to the 252 minus the points is 2 to the 252 minus this number. And the important thing to note is this number is exactly 8 times the prime of the subgroup. And that 8 that you have is a cofactor. So it works such that we have, we'll just call our points equals n, or odd equals r. We have it such that n divided by r gives you the cofactor. So you'll have seen that equation loads. So we'll get h, although it's predefined here, I'll just show you, because then a lot of times when you read this, you see this equation, maybe having some number in the background with an example here, and just can give you a bit more tangibility, make it a bit more pertinent to a case that is infinitely right. So h equals n divided by r. Okay, unsupported types of.
Won't it be on the reverse way?
I can't see. No, I can't see.
Oh, because in n you have a function, not a variable.
Oh, okay. No, points is. Oh, okay. So points isn't coming out as this. Oh, it's okay. So it's messed up unfortunately backwards from there. So I'd have to rewrite. I'm not going to. But it's such that this number is also notably very close with the 7237 to what this would be. Is this number here, and if you divide that by that, as we've done, just show you we've done it here. So divide the points here by 8 that we have, the cardinality, and that gives us the order of our subgroup. The problem is with each of these points along the subgroups are one you're working with, you will have a possibility a vulnerability. Or it's something called a small subgroup attack. So someone can send a point, knowing that the point they have is divisible by the order of this h equals 8, and that can be mistaken by someone creating a key generation input, and they can multiply it by their secret key, and then they will know not only the end point of the key immediately, the possibility they can actually extract out the scalar that you added by, so to the private key, which is a big issue. So when the team or the cryptographers got together, we want to keep hold of the positive side to this curve format, or this curve format here. We don't want to deal with the issues that arise with this particular issue, and then that's what this does. You go and have some links in the code to the Ristretto, to the big Ristretto group. There's a little internet paper on it, so you can understand how it does just with abstraction layers. But yeah, that's what we do. So you end up having this when such that multiplied by the order gives you this. So this is the group you have, and you don't like the issue of having this, cofactor when it's greater than 1. So you sort of separate them and then set one to this, and then having it over this field allows you to represent each point in this field and then not have to deal with the issue of having a cofactor. So that's what we do, how we do, and what we do, why we do what we do. Beyond that, other things that were asked in the previous video, I think most of them expanded on. Some of us said how you got into that. We gave quite a detailed, almost nostalgic answer from that. I've been asked in a while how you got into doing all of this. And then, yeah, that was it. People seem fine. There's been some questions leading about ZeroCaf in the Dusk Network channel, and hopefully they've been answered accordingly. And people have got a better idea of how it works with the Dusk Network protocol. If you have anything else, come to me, come to Carlos, and I'll be sure to help you out. Are you there, Carlos?
I was talking with the microphone disconnected. So I was just saying that they can reach us through the author section on the ZeroCaf library page on the crates.io. So there you can find our emails and send to us whatever questions you have. And I think that that's basically it. Remember to read the post that comes with this video, where you will find better explanations for everything. And
keep your eyes peeled for the Safe Curve document.
Yeah,
I'll have it very soon.
That's
I've done some good format for you. People, latex lovers. No, maybe don't say that. The program is.
Okay, so I think it's better to start closing this. Nice to be here, and see you guys maybe on another video. Goodbye.